So, yesterday we have discussed about rights. Hopefully, I'm audible to you. I'm audible? Okay. I'm audible, right? So, okay, yesterday we have discussed about rights. We have discussed the difference between the human rights and fundamental rights, if you could remember, and the origin of human rights, origin and development of human rights, some distinct features and characteristics of rights, which are very important. And in the Indian context, when we talk about the rights, knowledge of which is very, very important. Okay, so it will be quite helpful to understand any kind of situations where the violation of rights involved, and many a time we could not even distinguish the set of rights which we enjoy, and hence it will be helpful for you to understand the kind of rights that we could enjoy, the kind of rights which are being violated when you analyze a situation for report. And a lot of political reporting involve the issues related to right, because you see reporting on political violence also involve the conditions and the rights that we enjoy. And you also see the inaptitude or inability or any kind of inadequacies from the government, that also help you to understand the, you see, landscape of the right. And hence it is important to understand human rights and the fundamental rights. As I have already told you, the fundamental rights are the fundamental law of the land, right? And we have six fundamental rights. Yesterday we have already started. We started with this right to equality, and we have discussed about uh, four facets of equality when we talk about right to equality. So in constitution we have equality before law and equal protections of law, which are given and bestowed to us. So equality before law is a negative right, in the sense that not even if everyone is equal before the law, president and governor are not answerable for their activities to the common citizen. Okay, but you see, when you talk about equality before law, we can remember the British Constitution, because it has a derivative propositions, and the whole but that is that the proposition related to equality before law has derived from British Constitution, and the proposition related to equal protection of law is derived from American Constitution. So state here we actually give emphasize upon the capabilities of the state, okay, and abilities of the state, and also the duties of the state. So ability and the capability may not be the right word, but duty. But many a time state also restrain itself to effectively performing the duty, and also making an able decision or enable itself to promote and protect the human rights. So restrained role of the state is there in even liberal democracy, in even different set of governments where we don't experience democracy. And hence when we talk about equal protection of law, we get to find the role of the state to enhance the promotion and the protection of the rights for the people. Now, the role of the state, when you talk about the role of the state, we are talking about creation of equal opportunities for equals. Now, you see, creation of equal opportunities for equals and treating equals equally can be possible. But when you understand the nitty-gritties of right to equality, you actually see that it is not that easy to understand. Okay, because it's very difficult to establish equality in a society. So we have right to equality, and right to equality has been protected under equality before law and equal protection of law. Okay, equal protection of law is a positive right, in a sense that it enhances the ability of the state to create condition for us, to give opportunities to us to realize our potentialities, to participate effectively in the government decision making, and also in political life, and in cultural life, in economic life. So here we talk about the opportunities that we get from the government, okay, from the state here, and hence it is a positive right. When we talk about equal protection of law, means state will take each and every step to provide opportunities to the people, irrespective to the citizens, to the resident of a territory and a state, to irrespective of caste, class, and any kind of discrimination, okay, to realize their full potential. But when we talk about the negative variety of right, which is equality before law, negative variety, why? Because it has restricted state to create certain conditions. Untouchability, right against untouchability, is a negative variety because it abolishes untouchability. And also you see that absence of special privilege is also of negative variety, which comes under equality before law. So that so that the equal opportunities could be created. So negative rights should be there to enhance the positive right. So we have two varieties of right. One is negative rights, which will restrict the state to create equality of opportunities. Or further, you might also say, or not create equality, sorry, restrict the state to create special privileges for someone, okay, and to create condition to enhance equality, okay. And positive variety of rights will say that state will take the welfareistic role to create, you see, opportunities for people uh, to enjoy their rights and to realize their full potential. Okay, so now when we talk about uh, categorization or classification of, you see, certain class, you talk about equality, no? But how can we establish equality among unequals? Even man and women are not equal. There are different castes in Indian society are not equal. Even in terms of ethnicity, also, if you define groups are not equal because their holdings, their asset holdings, their wealth are not equally distributed. So, how can you think of establishing equality among the unequals? That is a question. Because, as I have already discussed in the last class, that people cannot be equal, and we are also endowed and bestowed with different traits, different physical traits, appearances, also faculty, capabilities, abilities. So, equality of treatment can be demanded, but it may not be a reality at the same time. But we can demand because that is a social equality when you talk about equality of treatment. Now, yesterday we discussed about three varieties of equality: political equality, economic, and social equality. Political equality will be there in a democracy. So, it is by default to be established in a democracy. When you talk about political equality, this is related to right to vote, okay. But when you talk about economic equality, you need to compensate as a state, as an enabler. You need to compensate to avail economic equality at the for one class at the expense of other class. Suppose you see, there are certain class got the tax benefit, industry setup established in a rural areas or in a backward areas are exempted for from giving tax, okay, or maybe given some subsidies just because it is established in backward areas, okay. But the same set of industries if set up in urban areas are not entitled to get that subsidy or that kind of tax exemption. So you see, there are some compensation. State will also make one set of industries, companies, or entities obliged, okay, to give and to provide at the expense of other, to establish equality. So when we talk about economic equality, okay, so you can actually increase the tax of one class and decrease, that's what, and also make one class exemption from giving the tax. So that's what perhaps the solution to establish the economic equality. And hence, when we talk about tax exemption, when we talk about the minimum wages, okay, labor legislations, these are some of the provision to establish economic equality. So these are, you see, these are some realistic and practical, and even you see, yeah, practical prudent step to major economic equality. Now we talk about economic equality in abstractions. It should be there, everybody should be equal, but you cannot even distribute the wealth equally. Hmm. But we mean equality before law, or equal protection of law by um, uh, reference to those principles. We might say that equality uh, means impartial allocation of the benefits among the member of the society. So it means impartial allocation of the benefit. Impartially you are allocating. Huh, by giving a disregard to the disparities of all kind. When you talk about the disparities, we are talking here about the polarizing notion. What are the like polarizing you see notions or layers or identity? Polarizing layers, notions, or identities are based on, you see, those ascriptive your attributes. Ascriptive attributes like class may be a polarizing, that is that you see, parameters or indicators to identity description, and class may be also polarizing indicators. Then you talk about residence, and also you talk about ethnicity, religion. These all have a polarizing attribute to define the identity. Why? Because this will help people to create clusters of sentiment, cluster of emotions, even physical proximity. Okay, so when you talk about the residents, people of a similar region, and also similar, even a family, that also have a kind of physical proximity, right? Apart from kinship and blood relationship, physical proximity is there in a family, right? And when we talk about even the, you see, uh, one caste, even we do not know about the very fact that caste derived from the Portuguese word casta means man of a good family. Okay, man of a good family. When you talk about casta, man of a good family, that nobody can change the occupation of the father, which is being inherited to the son. That's what was perceived initially. But you see, that is also a polarizing indicator, because it will make a cluster at the same time, right? So it's very difficult to eliminate the disparities in the society. So when we talk about the equality, establishing equality and distribution of the existing resources, this is very abstract in understanding. When you talk about distribution of existing resources impartially among the members of the community, you see, it's very abstract at the same time. Huh. But how will you distribute the resources, existing resources, equally? So, what kind of resources we are talking of? We are talking of job. We are talking of educational opportunities, educational facilities, and also other auxiliary services coming with this education, like hostel, boarding, lodging, like, fee compensation, giving a fee structures, that is also a minimum fee. Okay, and we are talking about other economic equality at the same time. Maybe we need a roof, we need shelter, right? That is very important, because you see, it is very difficult to define at the same time two-person, one person having, you also, you can interpret the same thing, having all the advantages. Okay, having two three maid to take care of his needs and requirements. Okay, and a school which is also nearby. At the same time, he had got all the facilities, all the you see, facilities in the sense, parents are there to meet all the needs. Okay, cannot be compared to a person, to a kid who is very poor and who can't even feed the stomach properly. Okay, and has no TV to watch, no radio to watch. Okay, and parents are also very ill-informed, illiterate, uh, to compete with that person. Okay, now that is a class variety. We cannot put it into class, caste. But you see, when we talk about any kind of formal measures that government has taken to realize equality and also to distribute the resources equally among the members, be it affirmative action, be it preferential treatment, be it protective discrimination or reverse discrimination, to make formal equality a real equality. We see that uh, it is at times difficult and it creates conflict and the clusters among the people. And hence, we say right to equality is very difficult to establish, but you need to understand and you need to empathic. You need to have emotional intelligence to understand what is equality, why we are talking of equality, why we are talking of reservations, and what extent it could be justified. This is also important. It's not like that, okay, we want reservations because I belong to the backward class, but yeah, I have all the facilities available. Although I'm like, I belong to backward class, I have facilities available, I did not face the trauma that, like, historically being imposed on these backward sections. No, but yeah, that sensitivity to that backwardness is important, backward people, which is very important. Your sensitivity to backwardness will not tempt you as a castes. Okay, so hence the right to equality is very, very important. So if I'm talking about the caste, doesn't mean that I was one who will always go for or favor reservation. But yeah, I have some merits to talk about reservation. I do have some demerits to talk about reservation. Okay, because one system, when we talk about formal method and a measure which is being implemented by the government, uh, does have some advantages and disadvantages, and you are supposed to critically evaluate it. And hence, when we talk about, you see, impartial allocation of the resources in a society, with economic benefit, you talk about creation of even drinking water, creation of road infrastructure, so everything related to equality. You cannot even disregard all these facilities. So in that way, you see, development are also related to politics, because without development we cannot even think of politics. Right to development is a very important collective and community right. Right to development is very important for child. When you talk about the child right, you have to have emphasize upon right to participation, right to development, right to survival. It's very, very important. Okay, and right to development is also related to right to education, right to learning. Okay, right to realize our full potential as a human being. Okay, and hence, when we talk about impartial allocation of the resources, we need to remember that there are certain methods. Okay, what are those methods? One is affirmative actions. Affirmative action could also be, you see, uh, initiated in the form of scholarship. Okay, because you see, there are different indicators of backwardness. Maybe you might also say, what might be the indicators of backwardness? You see, indicators of backwardness as defined by Mandal Commission, because that may be one, you see, sample document which I could give you to understand the backwardness. But definitely, the identification of backwardness as defined by Mondale is also defective. But yes, it has also got some, you see, merit. Okay, many people said that Mandel himself is from backward classes. That's why he has defined in that way. But yeah, he has come up with 12-point value, measurable value. So he defined backwardness on the basis of, that social indicators, economic indicators, educational indicators. You might have also own set of defining backwardness. State has own set of indicators to define backwardness. You might have set indicators to define backwardness. Now you see that Mandal Commission Before that, we have also Kalelkar Commission to define the backwardness uh, in the society. Kalelkar Commission came up with not many groups defined as a backward, but Mandal has come up more than 3,742 groups across the India are backward. Okay, but you say commission is supposed to consult with the state, so they did not consult with the state. So state indicators were varied and different from the commission's indicators. So Kerala government has identified 72 communities as backward, whereas Commission in Kerala has identified 204 communities as backward based on the social, educational, and economic criteria. In Orissa, Mandal found that there are more than 300 communities are backward, but state government did not even identify a single community as backward. So you actually see that consultations and communication is required with the state government criteria, which is set by the state government, as well as the criteria which is set by the commission. Now that is a matter of discussion in the communication. There is a lack of communication, lack of consultations, because of which we get to see that the whole implementation of the mandal report and the suggestions is very hasty and wrong and defective to an extent. To an extent, it was defective. So I cannot say that it was all defective, because that will be very biased. But at the same time, we get to see some goods also from the implementation of the mandal, and even the way he has identified, it's empirical, and it involves some as a deontological ethics, moral duty of the state to create formal equality or real equality, and he has implemented. That is the main you see accomplishment, that many a time commission's report are also not implemented, but it is implemented. Okay, so implementation was done. So okay, that was fine. So we actually get to see those indicators. When you get to see Mandal committee's commission's indicators on backwardness, you get to find some economic indicators, you get to find some educational indicators and social indicators. Now you also see in your research, you can also it may not be related to identifying one caste, one community, but yeah, one community. How will you define one community backward? He has indicated that socially, if that community is identified as a backward, socially, that society has already identified and attribute that community as a backward, will be considered as a backward. If that community, another factor is that if the women member of the community is in workforce and that is more than 25 of above state average, will be considered as a backward, which is also defective. While women member of family of one group, one caste, or one community engaged in a workforce will be considered as a backward, although there is also a parameter above state average. Okay, so that is also another indicators that he has drawn. And another one was marriage was one factor. Marriage, that early marriages is also a sign of backwardness. It's at that 25% people, 25% of women and the 10% of male, hmm, in rural areas married, uh, uh, they're married at the age of 17, and that is above state average. And 10% of female and 5% of male married at the age of 17, that is also in urban areas above state 25% of state average, will be considered as a backward. So he has identified that one community which is already identified as a backward, one community where women member engaged in a workforce, and that also constitute more than 25% of state average, and marriage is one factors. Okay, in urban and the rural areas, we actually see the concentration of those communities, and marriage is one factor which is also related to backwardness. Okay, and then we actually see some of the educational criteria, like you see that students or students at the age of 5 to, you see, uh, uh, mm, 15, hmm, uh, are mostly considered as a dropout, and that too exceeds 25% of the state average will be considered as a backward, in a sense that, so in one community, first, if there is highest number of student dropout between 5 to 15, okay, and in one community, if number of matriculates lesser than the state average, 25% of state average in that community, less number of matriculates in that communities, and also students who do not even students not that children do not attend school, and that is also, you see, more than that is more than that is 25% of state average will be considered as a backward. So in a community where students and sorry student children didn't even visit the school, okay, in a community there is less number of matriculates, in a community where there are more dropouts among school goers, will be considered as a backward community. And then we actually see the economic criteria. Economic criteria is based on the asset, economic asset that that community hold. Economic asset, if economic asset a family hold is also below the 25% of the state average, that economic asset, the property that they hold. Then also the loan taking behavior, if uh, if they can't, if the community members could not take that opportunity to take loan, is also one criteria, okay. And drinking water is also one criteria to define the backwardness. If 50% of the household could not get access to drinking water within half a kilometer, will be defined as a backward. Huh. And also, if you see that the number of you see community members or household uh, reside in kacha houses, and that is more than 25% of state average, will also be considered as backward. So one is people living or families living in kacha houses, right, family holdings and a property, and also access to drinking water and taking loan, access to loan, are some of the criteria to define the backwardness. So like that way we could actually see that on that basis backwardness was defined. Now you see, one caste is identified, but this backwardness is identified on caste basis, not on class basis. He hasn't used that word class. It is called backward caste. And I have told you that when you talk about the caste, that ancestral title is also there. It's very endogamous. When you talk about endogamous, what? Marrying is possible only with the person belonging to that caste, and also very minutely to sub variety or subgroup of that caste. Okay, so you see that endogamous factor is also associated when you talk about the caste, and the occupation cannot be changed, and it's a stratification of the society based on occupation. So understanding that no change in the occupation, which is hereditarily be inherent, hereditarily be inherent to the people. That's what we understand, right? So, but defining class is a bit different. Hmm. Caste is based on changing income, occupations, okay, status. Huh. So that is what class you have. You always have an upper mobility in the in the class, but you won't get to see that upper mobility. Although we claim that when we talk about the Srinivas also said that when long as women started chanting mantras and all, it is a kind of upper mobility. Okay, because that's what they have got Brahma in their tongue. So you see, so that's kind of understanding or sociological interpretation has been given. So it's very interesting also to understand the caste phenomenon, and it has also a very negative side when you talk about the mobilization, political mobilization based on the caste. You see, now there is a mobilization. Caste has been a mobilizing factor in a politics, for vote bank, to increase the vote bank arithmetic, just like religion has been a mobilizing factor in the politics to increase the vote arithmetic. Okay, so you see that there are merits and demerits to understand the backward caste and a class. Okay, uh, and when we talk about this equality of treatment and establishing equality or converting formal to real equality, we see that government has established, apart from reservation is one method to establish real equality. now, I said the society is unequal. So, reservation is one method that is called positive discrimination towards one community at the expense of other to establish equality. Now, there is also different pros and cons and different arguments. Okay, of reservation, we know it has also led to self-immolations or lot of like hesitations in the like in that northern India, right? Because of a non-merit based system. So, but there are arguments available, you know. You actually see that we talk about positive reservation, we talk about affirmative action, that is also another, make scholarship available for students for the lower caste, make hostel fees and free hostel, free lodging available for them. Okay, and also taking some intensive time bound program for them, even for adult educations, where there is also a deficiency in education generally, generational educational gap. I mean, the first generation group of students, parents are not educated, so what government could take up some intensive educational program to you see, educate the adult, educate the oldies, right? So like that way you can take some affirmative action could be taken. And then we have also preferential treatment, that is another mechanism. See, if other things are being equal, if there is a competition between an advantage and disadvantage um, uh, student, or students from advantage and disadvantage group, then student from disadvantage group will get the preference if other things are being equal. Okay, and when you see the two, hence we always see that reservation is the last option. Reservation is supposed to be the last option. First options are there, like one is preferential treatment. Okay, second is what? Second is the affirmative actions we are providing it. Okay, after that also you could not establish equality. There is a vast gap in the society. Okay, you also see certain community always take hold of certain positions. Okay, there is not equally distributed just because of their exposure, educational exposure, and also you see exposure through media, just because of the social capital that they do have. And you see lower caste and community do not have a social capital among them at all. And if they want to achieve higher, or they want to step up the ladder, then they need to get uh, uh, or need to be friend with someone from the higher caste. That is also a norm in many, you see, in northern India I have seen that kind of situation is also there, because lower caste are treated so derogatorily. And even in certain villages, you if they identify with the title, they won't let you, if they know that you are from law caste, they will not let you to they will let you drink in a separate, like, you know, that disposable cup, maybe not even a proper class. So that kind of treatment is also there, still there. It is still prevalent. Okay, and you see there is also fallacies. Now you see we also have symptoms of victimhood many a time. That is wrong, you know. So if somebody has experience, so just tell it, just speak it out. Okay, so if have an experience, simply don't make a mountain out of a molehill. That is also true. Huh. Because it is not, there are literatures, lot of literatures available. Huh. And situation, you cannot even say that situation has completely altered. No, situation has not altered at all, until and unless you can establish the social equality. And social equality can be established when you know how to treat everyone equally. You know, when you actually think about, understand the difficulties that do have, the sufferings that one communities have. And even you see, I would like to tell you, during interview, when we are looking for SC candidates, there's not even a single SC candidate performed well, you know, not even a single SC candidate during our interview this time. And one or two candidates came, I got so pained to see their performance. They're so ill informed. So you cannot say that things have changed completely. And but and also you see that many a time, when you can speak better, then you are termed as someone from a higher community. That is also another, because you always have a kind of that pulling factor, which will try to pull you to that alignment. Okay, so you can speak because you have got the Brahma in your, and you must be from a Brahmin community because you sprang up from the you see, mouth of the Brahma. Okay, so so people do not have a rational argument to justify the caste system which is there, and to speak in favor of reservations or whatever. And many a times there are also people who do not suffer. There are some Brahmin I have seen who are very, very moderate and who are very liberal, very liberal. They believe in liberal traditions. Okay, they don't even like, you know, wear the that sacred string. Okay, and also they have, I'll say, a very bigger heart. Okay, because of the exposure that they have seen. Okay, but at the same time, you also see uh, that there are some Brahmin who have not even exposed to the repercussion of any kind of reservation, but still they will say that I'm the one sufferer of reservation, sufferer from reservation. That is, like that way. There are also SCs, people from SC community. Okay, might not have any kind of, you see, they might not have any kind of experience related to the social evil, but they will also say that I have been suffering a lot. I am saying I have not been, like, I'm not a sufferer due to reserve. This is also true. I'm not a sufferer, but yeah, I do have sensitivities. Okay, I do have sensitivities to the whole caste system, caste, at least for the backward class and the caste people, because I know that there are certain people who did not get any opportunities at all. Okay, and also the treatment, which is also always wrong to them. There are certain communities, because of their color, because of their even the facial expressions, because of the tongue, uh, and I have been trying to be like them at times, in order to empower them that I am one among you, to speak like that way, to speak like the way they speak, to speak to even the we have, you see, we also have in Delhi, you know, it's a very like cosmopolitan city. So all those dangling earring, you know, like that's origin of those dangling earrings and all. So actually, those wear by backward class communities, those big, big wear rings, and because they make their ear also suffer at the same times, and those kala bindi, kala tika. So people embrace it. That becomes a fashion now, backward class fashion. Jeans, you talk about the jeans. Jeans also wore by this workers community, because just because of that roughness and thickness of that material, because it worked by the worker community. But now you see that this is also very comfortable, that attire for us, right? So you see, we embrace the change in fashions, in our ideologies. Okay, we embrace it. It's very important to embrace it also. But I'm not telling that whatever is there, you simply root it out. You know your traditions. You should know even the mantras. Why shouldn't you know? You should know, because that is something which is which only you know, and we need to read. And perhaps, but many times this is also true. If you see, there are few people uh, I have seen, they the few Brahmin, they are in favor of reservations. They're not against the reservation. And there are also few backward, few people from backward class community. They are not in favor of reservation. You see, So it's difficult to distinguish now on the basis of people, and it's good because it has removed the cluster effect, because this cluster effect will create a polarizing tendency and will lead to communal disharmony and communal incitement. So why there is communal disharmony? On the basis of religion, on the basis of caste, self immolations, and you see you can't sit along with people. You can't sit along the people from another caste and a community. Hmm. So just because of some prejudices and stereotype that you hold, no? Huh. But it's because of the cluster effect, because of the proximity, due to religion, due to residence even, due to age, right? Due to language. Okay, you hold that proximity, but that has created a kind of cluster effect, you know. And cluster effect is also responsible for communal disharmony, communalism, communal incitement, when you cannot even think of establishing equality at all. Okay, so reservation may be for one generation, if that is the first generation. Hmm. If my parents did not, my parents suffered, not my parents even. Hmm. If my father suffered, hmm, that is a condition of penury. So perhaps we are supposed to get the benefit, but that will be restricted to us, not beyond that. But that is also up to us whether I will access to that benefit or not. How far I'm access. I'll see my material condition now. Okay, fine enough. I'm even better than average in my community, or even among those who are de-reserved in general communities. So why should I take the reservation benefit? No way, no. So that is also one thing. So economic cutoff is supposed to be set up. Now we have another category like we talk about EWS, economically weaker section. So that is related to backwardness. Okay, for whom reservation is also required. Hmm. Now, okay, you understood. So, so be sensitive to these ascriptive identities and don't throw comments out of the. So you need to understand the situation first, and then try to uh, pass comments, pass remarks. Okay, it's very important for all of you. Huh. Then, okay, equality. Equality of treatment among the equals, but equality of treatment among the unequals cannot be possible. So, equality of equal shares among the equals is fine, but equal shares among the unequals cannot be possible. That is also another parameter to understand converting this formal equality to real equality. And hence, we need to create special provision for a few section of the society. Creation of special provision for a few section, like the children and the women. Because children and the women are considered to be unequal in that case. We are equal. So we also have our mental capability, you see this forbearance more than men. But in a patriarchal society, women and children need some special privileges in a patriarchal society, and hence you are also supposed to speak in favor of it. Okay, but victimhood is bad. You cannot make yourself as a victim. I'm not the one who's victim. You show your power, you strengthen yourself, and I need it, and that's why I need it. Okay, but mentioning a problem is not related to victimhood. You need to assert the difficulties, the problem that you have faced, but that is nowhere related to the becharipan and cousin, bichara kind and victim. So sour upon me some blessing, some help, some favor. No, okay. So that's how we understand. So and that too in a raw language and in a formal language. Okay. Okay. So then we talk about uh, freedom, right to freedom, right? So one is right to equality, then we are moving to right to freedom. So how many freedoms we have? How many freedoms we have in the constitutional freedom we have? We cannot even say how many freedom, how many constitutional freedom we have as a fundamental rights. Political freedom, civil freedom, what kind of freedom we have? Huh? Yeah, yeah, tell me. Expression, the very important one, which is also subjected to reasonable restriction and limitations, right? Because you see that as a media you cannot speak and report and cover each and every incident uh, without showing some sensitivity and following ethical guidelines. Otherwise this will lead to communal incitement, defamation, and also contempt of court, right? uh, Integrity and sovereignty of the nation is supposed to be maintained when you write something. Okay. And freedom of speech and expression is a broader freedom. Okay, we need to understand it better because it is also related to our communicative action. So we'll be discussing about it when we discuss about deliberative actions and public sphere. Okay. And apart from this we also have freedom related to freedom of assembly, freedom of assembly, freedom of meeting. Okay, freedom of assembly is very, very important. So we talk about the meeting. No. So in democracy, we can exercise that freedom. So in many autocratic government, you cannot even exercise that. Okay, let's meet together. So because you need to enumerate the regions and also cite regions why you are meeting, what are your agenda? Is your agenda against the state? Okay. So freedom of assembly is very important. That is also subject to reasonable restrictions, right? Subject to reasonable restrictions, and that too for general interest. Okay. Freedom to form an association is very important. That is also a collective right, and you become a member of one collective, form an association to realize your group affiliation. Because many a time when we live in isolation will make us weak. So we love to be a member of the group, and at the same time love to be a member of the cluster. Okay. So freedom to form association is very important. But you see, you need to understand the reasonable restrictions and the limitations. Okay, for general interest and for greater interest of the society. Freedom to settle, right? Freedom to settle and have a trade. Freedom to settle, have a residence across India. You can settle anywhere, have a resident across anywhere, except in the fifth schedule and the sixth schedule area, and that is the reasonable restrictions. Freedom to move across India, anywhere and everywhere, except in fifth schedule and sixth schedule area, where you need to get a pass, right? Inner line permit is required, right? Freedom to hold a trade and occupation is very important because that is related to your income. You can hold any professions, any trade, but that is also subjected to reasonable restrictions that it should not harm the society. Any occupation, any trade which you hold should not be harmful to the society. The services should not lead to some derogatory impact upon the, like, people and the population in the community. Okay, so it's very important. Even you see, when you talk about residence, no, freedom of having a residence, and this came to my mind just now. When you talk about the that equality, irrespective of caste, class, residence, place of residence. So in certain job, residence become the criteria of giving the job. But in a way, in constitution, you get to see that provincialism has been striked upon. That irrespective of, you see, residence you are supposed to get, but in certain job, that is a categorization. or a special provision. Job is to be given just because he or she belongs to that region, because it demands the that you see perhaps that constant attention from that person. That is very important, even that ACS and all. So even that is also, there are also people from outside India, but there are certain jobs which demand people from one region only. So okay, like that way. We also have another right after that, right to freedom. So uh, uh, then we have right against exploitation, right against exploitations, uh, in article 23 and 24. And prior to that, we also have right related to right to life, then right to freedom from arrest and detention. There are also provision related to preventive detentions, that when you are being arrested, you are supposed to be informed about the cause of arrest. You are supposed to be present before the magistrate within 24 hours. You are also supposed to be represented by a lawyer and an advocate. Okay. And preventive detention, provision of preventive detention was also there, although Preventive Detention Act was repealed later on, that a person may be detained on the supposition and the assumption that the person may cause any harm to the nation. Okay, that provision was that, but not more than 6 months a person could be detained, okay, in a custody. So like that way, that provisions were also detained. Huh? And we also have right to education, which is incorporated in the constitution by 86 amendment in 2020, the 2002. So right to education provision is also incorporated and integrated it as a very important component of right to life. Okay, and right to life cannot be suspended at any cost. Now you see that during emergency, all the fundamental rights are supposed to be suspended. But right to life, which is enshrined in Article 21 of Indian Constitution, which cannot be suspended. Okay, which cannot be suspended. If it is suspended, if it is violated, then there are also remedy in the sense supposed to be compensation has to be given of any that what the monetary compensation cannot even equate it and parallel to one life which has already been taken, even by the state. So there are some questions when you discuss those rights. Okay, how far we are eligible to exercise, and whether it is exercised in proper way or not. So you can analyze it. Okay. Uh, we also have uh, okay, freedom of then. Do you have any questions? Okay, I have been speaking, but I haven't asked you. Do you have any question? Any question from your side? No? No question? Okay. So we also talk about right against exploitations. So when you talk about the exploitation, so there could be a varied kind, different kind of exploitation which made by especially the women and children, and we also have a bonded labor systems and the beggar, which are human trafficking, which are banned in India under the provision of Article 23 and 24. We actually see the system of bonded labor, system of beggar has been banned, but it's still prevalent in certain countries. So here we can actually discuss about under this right. You can discuss about some act also, Factories Act, Mines Act. Okay, they try to protect the rights of the contractual labors. Now, bonded labors are different from contractual labors, right? So, when you talk about this bonded labors, they refers to a relationship between the debitor and the creditor, when the debitor will give the service to the creditor without getting any compensation for the service, and that too for a specific period of time and made his family member also to give service, in way of meet the debt that he has taken, loan he has taken from the creditor. So it actually establishes a very unequal kind of relationship between the debitor and a creditor. And hence we also have the labor legislation. So the government, which legislation, the formal, that is what that step that government has taken is a labor legislation, to make the agreement fair among the employer and employee. Here also you actually see that debitor will always at a loss, right? For years he is serving the creditor because of some debt that has incurred, right? So this system is available in almost in all the states in India. Okay, so they are known as Kamiyas in Bihar, Kamiyantis, Jatham. You talk about even Halis in Buster regions. So you get to see this bonded labor is existed because of even some social, economic, and religious factors. And one thing, debt has been why debt has occurred. Debt has occurred due to heavy spending in occasion in face. That is one thing. Okay, and also you see that unequal land holdings, that is also one regions, that is a social regions. Okay, so unequal land holdings and landless pigeons are often the bonded laborers, landless pigeons, because they do not have any kind of land holdings, okay, to even get something from the land to cultivate in the land. And we also see that mm, we we have some religion enjoins. Some religion enjoinment is there. Enjoinment is such that religion enjoins that lower caste people is supposed to serve the upper caste people. That is a religion enjoinment. And then think just because they're illiterate, they're ill-informed, okay, and that has also caused bonded labor system. And when you talk about the contractual labor doesn't have a place in the payroll, and they are not entitled to get any kind of fringe benefit from the employer. They are not entitled to get themselves integral to the social security scheme. They are not supposed to get the benefit of the social security schemes that usually each and every employees get, because their recruitment is not procedural. Okay, and hence their rights are also very important, and their rights are mentioned in a Factory Act, Mine Act, the rights of the contractual laborers, and at times they are also they relegated to bonded labor, but bonded labor is basically related to farm sectors, and when we talk about the contractual labor, sorry, non-farm sectors, and when we talk about the contractual laborers, they are related to farm sector, farm in the sense companies and factories here, and bonded labor is related to non-farm sectors. Here non-farm in the sense, here we talk about even agriculture laborers as well as household laborer, domestic helpers and all. These are also a kind of, but yeah, see here, the persons, the consciousness of the person also does matter. So every time you cannot say a person has been working in a household for even 20 years, 25 years, cannot be termed as a bonded labor if he or she exercised the rights equally with the other members of the house. Okay, so you need to see the conditions, examine the condition of that person, willingness, her understanding, okay, her prerogatives, her rights, which are being availed in that household or not. Okay, so like that way, right against exploitation is also important. Children right, when you discuss about the child rights, we talk about the corporeal punishment, various kind of abuses which are against the children. Huh. So you also talk about that slapping and all. So like opposite sex cannot slap. So that's a kind of norm. Like when now you see, earlier, so we were being beaten by our parents to correct us, and perhaps that's why we have a thick skin, Okay, but now you see, even if you uh, touch someone, why you have done this, then he has beaten me. So see the sensitivity and see the kind of that. negative sentiment which is also associated with this term called corporal punishment and exploitation. And exploitation is also the term is misused nowadays. You know, have you felt that the term exploitation is misused? So I mean, you are exploited. You have exploited me. So on what ground I'm exploiting you? You see, so many legislation have come up, but making our lives so very complicated. Okay, but yeah, if someone is subjected to any kind of physical force or injury and pain in order to correct in such a way that he's being bitten, his like heart, his that sorry, bones are broken, okay, and teeth broken, huh. And he has got some wound in his physique or her physique, so definitely that will amount to corporal punishment. Okay, so here also you need to understand certain conditions, but we don't understand those conditions properly because we don't study a case qualitatively. On the basis of certain parameters, we will draw that okay, this parameters, okay, this will amount to corporal punishment. कभी कभी स्लैप भी जरूरी होता है. अभी एक सीरियल में दिखाता है अनुपमा हमेशा स्लैप मारता है. एक जो अनुपमा होता है ना, वो जाता है सिर्फ बस लगा देता है. हाँ, कब लगाता है? जब तुम सुधरने का कोई नाम नहीं ले रहे हो. यू आर তুমি শুধৰিব লাগিব, নিজকে শুধৰাব লাগিব. যেতিয়া তুমি শুধৰোৱা নাই, আচ্ছা ঠিক আছে, তেতিয়াতো আৰু একো উপায় নাই. সেই মানুহ সেই ল'ৰা এটাক, এটা টিনেজ এটাক উপায় নাই আৰু চৰেৰে কাম চলি যাব আৰু চৰ এটা দিবই লাগিব, তেতিয়াহে হ'ব. So like you need to slap. But that will not amount to corporal punishment. It's related to motherhood love, affinity, and you see that guardianship and even the paternalistic feeling. No. So, কেতিয়াবা তেনেকুৱা ধৰণৰ ইছ্যু কিছুমানো থাকে, how it is being represented. But কিয় কৈছোঁ, কাৰণ people do not understand the difference. People do not understand. People can't make the difference. Huh. So it's very important to understand. Okay. So, okay, I'm just finishing it today here. So we'll continue.